Do you really think you belong here? My mother-in-law's voice cut through the restaurant like a blade. The luxurious aroma of the food, carefully plated, absurdly expensive, suddenly felt spoiled by her contempt. She's just a daughter-in-law, she continued, lips curling into a smirk, not blood. She flicked her hand toward the door, dismissing me as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience. Rage surged through me, my hands trembled as I pushed my chair back and stood up. I was ready to leave, until she raised her hand again. Wait, her eyes gleamed. If you're leaving early, leave the money, pay the bill. I turned to her slowly and smiled. Why would I pay a stranger's bill? My name is Maya, I'm 29 years old, an office worker, and until recently, I thought my marriage to my husband Tyrell was stable, happy, even. There was only one problem. His mother. She lived nearby and treated our home like her personal territory. She criticized my cooking, my cleaning, the way I folded laundry, everything, under the guise of being a concerned mother. She barged in unannounced, pointing out flaws with surgical precision. Whenever I complained to Tyrell, he brushed it off. She doesn't mean it like that, he'd say, she's just worried about us. But it kept getting worse. Armed with a spare key my husband had given her, she'd enter whenever she pleased. She complained to the neighbors, spread rumors, and painted me as a lazy, ungrateful wife. I begged Tyrell to move, but he was always too busy, too distracted, too indifferent. Then things changed. Tyrell landed a major project at work, one that earned him a promotion and a substantial raise. Seeing an opening, I suggested something I hoped would finally push him to act. Maybe it's time we think about having children, I said carefully. To my surprise, he nodded. If we do that, he replied, I want to move somewhere better for kids. There aren't enough childcare centers here, and no parks. Maybe it's time for a new town. I was happier about that sentence than I was about his promotion. That happiness lasted exactly one day. The next afternoon, my mother-in-law showed up, no warning. As usual, I expected the usual scolding, but this time she wore a strange, satisfied smile. I've reserved a restaurant to celebrate my son's promotion, she announced. It's very expensive, elegant, excellent service, wonderful reputation. That's nice, I said politely. Then she surprised me. I want you to come too. I frowned. Until now, she'd gone out of her way to exclude me. I'll check my schedule, I replied, but it's probably not possible. Don't say that, she said, smirking, we'll be waiting. When Tyrell came home, he explained everything. She had already told him we were going together. His brothers and their wives would be there too. He was genuinely excited. I wasn't. Something felt wrong. That night, I ordered a small voice recorder online. If she planned to humiliate me at the restaurant, I would record everything, and if Tyrell still defended her after hearing it, I would walk away from the marriage. The day of the dinner arrived, heavy and suffocating. At the restaurant, we were led into a private room. My mother-in-law was already seated with Tyrell's two brothers and their wives. The table was overflowing with extravagant dishes. There was only one empty chair. Tyrell frowned. Did they miscount the seats? He stood up. I'll ask the waiter. Everyone, start eating. The moment he left, my mother-in-law rose from her seat. There's no place for you, she said coldly. Why would I invite a stranger to a family celebration? She looked me straight in the eyes. So here's your choice. Prove your sincerity and be accepted as family, or leave and never come back. Decide now. I'm leaving, I said immediately. She blinked, clearly not expecting that. Wait, she snapped. If you pay the entire bill tonight, I'll recognize you as Tyrell's wife. Isn't that what you want? Pay and become family. I turned toward the door. I told you, I'm leaving. Why would I pay for someone else's family? She slammed her hand on the table. Don't be stupid, I'm giving you a chance. No, I said calmly, I'm fine being a stranger, and strangers don't pay your bills. By the time she rushed after me, I was already walking out of the restaurant. When I got home, I barely had time to sit down before Tyrell burst through the door. The waiter said the reservation was correct. He said breathlessly, my brother told me everything. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't think she'd go that far. What I didn't know yet was that my refusal had sparked something else. The wives of Tyrell's brothers, women who had endured years of silent humiliation, stood up and left too. For the first time, they spoke back. Their husbands followed them out in shock. Within hours, my phone began ringing non-stop. I blocked the calls. 3 hours later, an unfamiliar number slipped through. "Hello," a voice said hesitantly. "I'm sorry to call, but, so late? Is this Maya's phone?" The man on the line identified himself as a police officer from the nearby station. He explained that after I left the restaurant, my mother-in-law had tried to eat whatever food remained and then attempted to force the staff to charge the bill to me later. The staff, already fed up after her earlier outburst, refused outright. They assumed, correctly, that I would never return after being humiliated and storming out. My mother-in-law ignored every call she made to me, so the restaurant suggested she pay by card. That was when the real problem surfaced. She didn't have a credit card. And she hadn't brought enough cash to cover 6 people's meals. Panic set in. She frantically called other relatives, demanding help, but no one answered. Cornered and humiliated, she exploded, screaming that everything was my fault. Her tantrum escalated into outright destruction. Expensive vases and flower pots were knocked over and shattered, prompting the restaurant to finally call the police. The officers managed to calm her down, but she refused to admit fault. With unpaid bills, property damage, and an uncontrollable customer, the restaurant asked the police to either escort her home or take her into custody. Feeling uneasy about ignoring a call from the police, my husband and I reluctantly returned. When we arrived, my mother-in-law was being restrained verbally by the officers. The moment she saw me, her face twisted with fury. She crossed her arms and screamed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You useless woman, this happened because you didn't pay the bill. Helping your mother is only natural, pay it now." I was stunned. Even with the police present, she was practically threatening me. The officers explained calmly that if no one took responsibility, she would either be escorted in a patrol car or arrested for dining and dashing. "Please take her away," I said coldly. "Arrest her if necessary. She should take responsibility for her own actions." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "How can you be so heartless?" she cried. "Just pay the bill. It's terrible luck to have a family member arrested." "I don't care," I replied flatly. "I'm not family, and I won't associate with someone who screams, lies, and destroys property." I turned to leave, but my husband stopped me with a glare. "I know what she did was wrong," he said, "but is it really serious enough for her to be arrested?" I stared at him in disbelief. "You're missing the point," I said. "She's in trouble because she didn't pay and caused a scene. Or are you saying I should be blamed for not paying for 6 people's meals I never ate?" He said nothing. Instead, he walked toward the police and the staff. I knew exactly what he was about to do. "If you pay for her," I called out, "we're getting divorced. Don't pretend you didn't hear me." He didn't respond. He simply took out his wallet. I sighed and walked away. By the time he returned home near midnight, my bags were already packed. "She won't be arrested," he said wearily. "The restaurant agreed to drop it if I compensated them and promised she'd never come back. I didn't have enough money, so my brothers helped." He kept talking, clearly irritated by my silence, until he noticed my luggage. "What's going on? Why are your bags packed?" "I'm leaving," I said. "We're getting divorced. I warned you." His eyes widened. "Why are you acting like this? I know Mom crossed a line, but divorce? Isn't that extreme? I told you I was being harassed. You ignored me. Even when the police were involved, you still chose her over me. There's nothing strange about wanting to leave someone like that." I stopped listening after that. The next morning, I filed for divorce. He protested, pleaded, and argued until I mentioned involving a lawyer. Then he signed. Just like that, I became a stranger again. Afterward, my ex-husband moved back in with his parents. He had relied on me for nearly everything at home, and once I was gone, he couldn't manage. The apartment quickly became filthy. Eventually, he gave up and returned to his childhood home. The same thing happened to his brothers. That night, when they were forced to help pay the compensation, both of their wives finally snapped. The brothers drained their savings without consulting them, believing their mother's claim that the wives were the reason she almost got arrested. Within days, all 3 marriages collapsed. The neighborhood took notice. Rumors spread that all 3 brothers had been abandoned by their wives. My mother-in-law raged, insisting her sons were victims and that their wives were heartless failures. The brothers nodded along, smug and self-righteous. No one believed them. The neighbors knew exactly who she was, and laughed behind her back. She earned a reputation as a failed mother, and her sons became known as grown men who hid behind her instead of protecting their wives. As for me, I changed my number, moved to a new place, and disappeared from their lives completely. Freedom was quiet at first, but peaceful. During the divorce process, I grew close to the ex-wives of the eldest and third sons. We bonded over shared experiences, and soon we were laughing together, eating out, shopping, living freely. The day after tomorrow, we're visiting a new cafe. For the first time in a long while, my life feels like my own. And strangely enough, I'm grateful for the freedom, for the peace, and for the friendships born from something so painful.